a good old unsolved mystery. Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. I'm your host Emily, and today we're counting down our list of the top 10 terrifying unsolved mysteries from American states. Coming in at number 10 is Russell and Shirley Dermond, Georgia. In May 2014, elderly couple Russell and Shirley Dermond were expected to attend a party for the 2014 Kentucky Derby with their neighbors, who grew concerned when the couple did not show up. On May 6th, when the neighbors went into their house to check on them, the neighbor found the door unlocked and entered the house. Russell's decapitated body was found on the floor of his two-car garage, lying in a small pool of blood. When police were unable to locate Shirley inside the house, they initially suspected that she had been kidnapped. 10 days later, Shirley's body was found by a fisherman on Lake Oceanee. An autopsy found that she died from either 2 or 3 deep wounds to the head from a blunt object. Now, Russell's head has never been found, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Number 9. Josh Maddux, Colorado. On May 8, 2008, Josh Maddux left the house, telling his sister Kate that he was going out for a walk. He often went out hiking alone, so when his sister saw him at the house before he left, she thought little of it. But when he failed to return later that evening, his family became worried. On May 13th, 5 days after he disappeared, his father, Mike, called the police to report Josh missing. The authorities, friends, and family scoured the neighborhood in nearby Parkland area where Josh may have decided to go walking. After months of searching, nothing had been uncovered and hopes faded. Then, 7 years later, in August 2015, less than a mile away from Josh's home, property developer Chuck Murphy was demolishing an old wood cabin to make way for 32 new family homes. Now, the cabin had been used in years and the inside was damp and rotten. Work to demolish the chimney inside the cabin started, and to the surprise of the demolition team, crammed inside the brickwork was a mummified body, which was later confirmed as Josh's. His body was naked apart from a thin shirt, and his clothes were neatly stacked inside the cabin. Now, an autopsy found no evidence of any drugs in Josh's remains. He said the heart tissue showed no signs of trauma, there were no broken bones, no knife marks, there were no bullet holes. There is so far no answers to a number of things. It is very confusing. It was not an instant death. It seems like we might never know what happened to Josh that fateful day. Number 8. Dan Cooper, U.S. Airspace. Now, one of the most famous heists in history occurred on November 24th, 1971, when a man who identified himself as Dan Cooper bought a one-way ticket to Seattle on Northwest Orient Airlines from Portland, Oregon. After the plane was airborne, Dan handed the flight attendant a note. Now, at first, she just put it in her pocket without looking at it, but then he told her, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a..." He then opened a briefcase to reveal red-colored sticks surrounded by an array of wires. He told the flight attendant to write down everything he was saying and then take it to the captain. The note said, "I want $200,000 by 5 p.m. in cash exclusively in $20 bills, put in a knapsack. I want 2 back parachutes and 2 front parachutes. When we land, I want a fuel truck ready to refuel. No funny stuff or I'll do the job." FBI agents assembled the ransom money, and Seattle police obtained the parachutes from a local skydiving school. When Dan claimed his demands were met, he allowed all passengers and some of the crew to exit the airplane. He told the remaining crew to refuel the plane and chart a course for Mexico City while staying below 10,000 feet. Then, somewhere between Seattle and Reno, he jumped from the plane with the money and was never seen again. Now, despite an expansive manhunt and over 45 years of searching, no conclusions have been made as to the man's identity or his fate after he jumped. Today, it is called one of the greatest cold cases in FBI and US history. Number 7. The Zodiac, California. The Zodiac took the lives of 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December 1968 and October 1969. Now, he coined this name in a series of taunting letters and cards that he mailed to regional newspapers. Now, some of the letters included cryptograms or ciphers in which he claimed that he was collecting his victims as slaves for the afterlife. Now, he targeted young couples and a lone male cab driver. 2 of his wounded victims survived, and the Zodiac would attempt to end the lives of a couple on a hillside at Lake Berryessa, but only the woman would succumb to her injuries. The man would live to tell the story of what happened and give his creepy description of the hooded serial slayer. Now, the Zodiac claimed to have taken the lives of 37 victims and has been linked to several other cold cases, some in Southern California or outside the state. While many theories regarding the identity of the Zodiac have been suggested, the only suspect authorities ever publicly named was Arthur Lee Allen, a former elementary school teacher who died in 1992. Number 6. Amber Hagerman, Texas. A young Amber Hagerman was riding her bicycle in a parking lot of an abandoned grocery store in Arlington, Texas on January 13, 1996, when she was kidnapped. A witness told police that he saw a man get out of a black pickup truck, grab her off the bicycle, and force her into his truck as she kicked and screamed. Now, despite the massive search, she wasn't found, and then 4 days later, a man walking his dog found Amber's body in a creek about 4 miles from where she was abducted. Autopsy reports revealed that she had died of cut wounds to the neck. Now, as of January of last year, police have received and investigated more than 7,000 tips related to the case. I miss her every day, and she's just so full of life, and I want to know why. Why her? She was only a little girl, Amber's mother, Donna Williams, said last year. Now, police say there is limited evidence in the case, but they hope that the new DNA technologies can help them catch who was responsible. Now, her abduction led to the invention of Amber Alerts, and although some people might think they're annoying, they do save lives. Number 5. Tylenol poisoning, Illinois. On September 29, 1982, 7 people in the Chicago area ingested poisoned Tylenol pills, consequently collapsing and dying shortly after. Now, bottles of the popular pain and fever reliever were spiked with cyanide and returned to store shelves, targeting random people. After all the victims were buried on October 1st, 1982, it was revealed that the Tylenol bottles were intentionally poisoned. Immediately, over 31 million bottles of Tylenol were recalled by the manufacturer and were issued warnings. They also offered to replace recalled bottles with new bottles and offered a $100,000 reward to anyone who may have any information on the perpetrator. Now, these precautions cost the company over $100 million, and there were several more copycat deaths across the United States after the initial incident had occurred. Now, this led to the invention of the safety seals that you see on medicine bottles today, and to this day, no suspect has ever been charged or convicted of poisonings. Number 4. The Axeman, New Orleans. From 1918 to 1919, the Axeman of New Orleans ended the lives of 6 people and left 6 more severely injured. An Italian grocery store owner and his wife were the first victims. They were found in bed at home with their throats cut and skulls bashed in with an axe. The victims who followed were also found in bed, and no valuable belongings were taken. A newspaper received a letter with demands for the following Tuesday night that said, "I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home jazz band plays in full swing at the time I've just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well then, so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of you people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe." Now, on that Tuesday night, the streets of New Orleans filled with jazz, and nobody was harmed. Then, in October 1919, the deaths ended just as quickly as they had begun, and the criminal was never found. Number 3. Jeanette, DePalmer, New Jersey. In 1972, in Springfield, New Jersey, a dog brought a decomposing forearm to its owner. They quickly alerted the police, and this prompted a police search, and a body was soon found on a cliff. The body was identified as Jeanette DePalmer, a girl who was missing for 6 weeks. Now, the hill where she was discovered was covered with occult symbols, and many were led to believe that her body was placed on a makeshift altar. Many locals and even some police officers pointed their fingers at an alleged coven of witches who were rumored to have used Jeanette for a human sacrifice, and others said it was a satanic group. Now, reports from local papers mentioned the police couldn't determine the cause of death due to the body's decomposition, and authorities investigated a local homeless man who was a prime suspect, only to find no connection to the crime. Many believe that Jeanette may have provoked a group of Satan-worshipping teens at her high school, since she was involved with a group that helped drug addicts find their faith in Christ. Now, to this day, her death remains unsolved. Number 2. Brooklyn Farthing, Kentucky. On June 21st, 2013, Brooklyn Farthing, her younger sister Paige, and cousin went to a field party. Paige and Brooklyn's cousin decided to leave the party early on, while Brooklyn had been plans to sleep over at a friend's house who was also at the party, so she was going to stay. However, when Brooklyn's friend decided she wanted to spend the night at a boy's house, the two argued and the friend left. Now, towards the end of the party, Brooklyn was seen leaving with 2 young men, and when the men was dropped off, but the other man took Brooklyn to his house. It was at around 4 a.m. on June 22nd that Brookelyn called Paige and asked if their cousin could come pick her up. However, the cousin had had too many drinks and was in no condition to drive. Now, Brookelyn didn't want her mother to have to come get her, so she called her ex-boyfriend. He agreed to give her a ride home when he got off work. It was at this point that the man who brought Brookelyn to the house left. Now, before long, Brookelyn's ex-boyfriend received several texts from her saying, "Can you hurry? Please hurry," and then "I'm scared." Then another text came in telling the ex to never mind and that Brookelyn was going to another party. He asked who she was going with, but there was no response, and Brookelyn hasn't been heard from or seen since. And coming in at number 1 is Tara Calico, New Mexico. On the morning of September 20th, 1988 in Bella, New Mexico, Tara Calico borrowed her mother's pink bike to go out for a ride. She planned to play tennis that afternoon and asked her mom to drive out after her in case she got a flat tire and didn't return home by noon. Now, she never did return and no one knew what happened to her. Every lead went dead until about a year later when a photo was found depicting a young woman, her age, and a missing boy, both gagged. The Polaroid photograph was found in a parking lot outside a junior food store in Florida. Michael Henley went missing in the same area as Tara in April of 1988 when he was hunting turkeys with his father. Now, they appear to be in the back of a van with a copy of a book written by V.C. Andrews, Tara's favorite author, lying right beside the girl. Now, initially, Tara's mother didn't think the girl was her, but the girl in the photograph had a scar identical to Tara's. In 1990, Michael Henley's body was found in Zuni Mountains where he was hunting, which strongly disconnected the theory that the two were abducted and taken to Florida, but unfortunately Tara's parents would eventually die, never finding out who took their daughter. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 terrifying unsolved mysteries from American states. Have you heard about any of these crimes? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're down there. I'm your host Emily, and we'll see you next time. Peace.